Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J.
People, it is Thursday, June 6, 2024. I'm Dave Rubin, back in studio. This is the Rubin Report, and yes, I survived a couple days in New York City. As always, we are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. Post-game wrap-up, rubinreport.locals.com, and if you sign up at Locals, absolutely free, you will now get our new newsletter, which has insider information. What am I eating? What am I drinking? What am I wearing? What am I listening to? You can find out, rubinreport.locals.com. And yes, I survived New York City. We were there for a couple days. I did Megyn Kelly's show. That was actually in Connecticut. Did Greg Gutfeld, of course. Did Jesse Kelly. A couple other Fox shows. Bounced around the city a little bit. And I will say, we're going to get into a bit of this later on in the show. I will say, at times during the day in New York City, it felt a little more normal to me, a little bit more like it used to feel, although right around dusk, it's very bizarre. Something shifts, the business people all disappear, and the zombies come out, and it's like this weird cross-section of like fentanyl addicts, jihadists, African migrants, and a bunch of people wearing hoodies looking for drugs. A good time for everybody. Anyway, the theme, I'm glad to be back in studio, and the theme of today's show is that I'm going to give I would say, friendly nudge to Joe Rogan. Obviously, Rogan is the biggest podcaster on the planet. In many ways, he's more influential than the New York Times in some respects, and more influential than CNN, certainly via views and clicks. But he seems to be stuck a bit in that kind of Bill Maher-ish spot of like, oh, I can see how horrible everything is with the Democrats and wokeness and all of that stuff. But he had a bit of a strange piece on his show from yesterday where he basically said the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. And until we get past that, because it just ain't true, and we'll show you some evidence of it. I know you guys know it already. Until we can get that middle swath of people to get past that idea. You may think the Republicans suck, and they largely do. They don't here in Florida, but yes, do they nationally often suck? Sure. And do the Democrats blow? Sure. So it's a blow and suck situation, but they don't suck and or blow as much as the Democrats. And if we don't realize that, and if we don't get the moderates to realize that, then congratulations. We will have either the corpse of Joe Biden or something much worse, because whatever comes after Joe Biden, whether it's that he falls down the stairs or falls up the stairs, or they just boot him at the convention, or they take his carcass into 2025 somehow, whatever is driving it and whatever's coming after it obviously will be worse than that. We're going to connect all of this to the Trump trials, to the Fauci hearing. There was a Merrick Garland hearing and a couple things from some of my appearances in New York. And I will wrap it up with a message of hope, because we got to save this frickin' country. Before we do any of that, let me talk to you guys about Course Careers. Guys, the traditional path for starting a high-paying career is going to college and taking on massive debt while spending 4+ years learning mostly outdated information or becoming a member of Hamas. With Course Careers, students can start the high-paying careers in as little as 3 months by spending $500 using modern online education. Course Careers offers courses for specific high-paying careers, including software development, tech sales, data analytics, digital advertising, and many others. All of their courses begin with a free introduction, so students can learn everything they want to about a career before committing to it. Once a student buys a program, they learn everything required to land their first position with no previous experience or degree required. Course Careers has now had thousands of students land jobs and had many 18-year-olds out competing college graduates for high-paying tech jobs at prominent companies. Start a free introduction course with Course Careers now. That's courscareers.com/A/Rubin. And now back to me. Okay, so let's talk about Joe Rogan a little bit. You guys know, I've done Rogan's show a bunch of times. I like Joe. I think he's directionally right about most of these things. He's certainly not a traditional, say, conservative or Republican or anything else, but he's largely getting it, and he represents something culturally that is important, which is why so many people pay attention to his shows. He did not vote for Trump last time. He did not vote, as far as I understand it. He didn't vote last time, but clearly the things that he talks about, the involvement with UFC and everything else, would lead you to believe, and the constant dissection of the woke that he's always doing would lead you to believe that he would vote for Trump or Republicans. So first, let me show you a clip of him talking about why people do resonate with Trump, and then we'll get to the other stuff.
Seems like there's a candidate that the government really doesn't want.
Yeah, there's this one guy. What's his name?
Yeah.
One guy who went to the UFC this weekend and got like a 30-second standing ovation.
Yep.
Almost as big as Dave in Ohio, but not quite.
Right.
Not quite.
They're changing the tone on this. I mean, they're doing it. They want to try to make him look like a bad guy, but people just aren't stupid anymore. I mean, there's obviously still like half the country doesn't get it, but
so many rappers. So many rappers are showing support for Trump now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because now he's got a felony.
Right.
Right. I mean, like, now they realize also he's getting trapped by the system, just like everybody's been rapping about. Being trapped by this system, this bull system. And you watch it happen with him.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just talking about this. It's like I don't think they were counting on the black voter being like, hey, they just that guy. That's what they do to us.
Yeah, this is what they do to everybody, and they pretend they're there for you while they're letting in immigrants.
Okay, so you get it. Rogan largely gets it. He now sees that Trump is the victim of the system, and he clearly is with this absolute sham trial out of New York and trying to push him off the ballots and everything else. Trump is the cog in the system that is stopping the system, right? It is slowing down the system. And what he's saying is, oh, this is what rappers have been talking about forever. The system is no good, blah, blah, blah. So black people are waking up. Also, as it pertains to immigration, he says that right at the end, like we see what's going on at the border and everything else. But now I'll go to the part that I teased up top. So if that is your conclusion, if you see that Trump is anti-system and you're not happy with the system, and if you see that Trump is anti-woke and you're not happy with the woke, and if you see that Trump is anti-war and you're not happy with the wars, well, then you might want to vote for Trump and the people in his party because they'll probably be a little bit better than the Democrats. But I think he's caught in a little bit of old school thinking here. Take a look.
And you know what, man? Here's the problem. Here's the real problem. Republicans won't be the solution either, kids. The problem is people in a position of power. The Republicans seem like they are your solution, but it's just because the people in power right now are the Democrats. Whenever the Democrats are out and the Republicans are in, everybody is dying for a Democrat. I remember when Bush was president, after the second term, everybody was like, good Lord, can we get a reasonable Democrat in here before this country goes Christian nationalist and goes crazy and starts every war?
Yeah.
And then Obama comes in like, oh, things going to be great. But it kind of seems like kind of the same, you know, and the whistleblower protection that he promised, actually probably like one of the worst on whistleblowers ever. Drone strikes, kind of a shitload of drone strikes.
Yeah.
The whole thing was bonkers. It's just the same structure with a different face.
Okay, so there's a bunch of things to unpack here. Now, he is right that when Bush was ending his 2 terms, that the whole country and the media and everybody was like, enough of this, right? The Iraq War at that point was looked at as basically an abject failure. That was sort of Bush's main thing post 9/11. And then Barack Obama came in, smiley, nice teeth, spoke well, clean cut for a black guy. That's a loose quote of Joe Biden, something to that effect. And I did vote for Obama twice, and I should be judged accordingly. I was a lefty at the time. We wanted something else. And then what Rogan's right about is that Obama largely failed on those things. Drone striking Americans. We started a war in Libya that we didn't declare a war. A whole bunch of other stuff. The Syria red line that they just ran over, etc. How about that thing that Putin invaded Ukraine, right? Like there was a whole bunch of stuff. He didn't do that under Trump. But what I think he's missing there is that you might say that Republicans and Democrats are just equally horrible, but they're different, and thus they are not equal. If we had just largely across the country right now, a Republican Congress, a Republican Senate, more Republican governors, and a Republican president, say Trump as president, would the border be better or worse? Of course it would be better. Would crime in our streets and in our cities be better or worse? Of course it would be better. The drug situation, better or worse? Well, that's connected to the border situation, so of course it would be better. DEI and all of the woke stuff, would it be better or worse? Of course it would be pushed out of the system, thus better. Now, it doesn't mean it would be perfect, but it certainly would be better. So if you're on the fence about all of these issues, or if you're, not on the fence, if you're looking at all of these issues and you roughly agree with what I just said, then you have to vote for Republicans, this isn't Barack Obama versus Mitt Romney anymore. Like, Trump really does represent something different, which is why, as Rogan correctly pointed out in the previous clip, that the system's going after him the way that he is. And I say this as someone that 6 months ago wanted a different guy to be the Republican nominee. But here we are, and it's pretty freaking obvious. So unless we get more people to realize that this is not Mitt Romney anymore, this is not John McCain anymore, the country has shifted wildly. Also, the Democrat Party has gone bananas. When Obama came in the first time, there were still some blue dog Democrats. There were still some moderate Democrats. That's what people thought Obama was. And then there was the hope and change thing. So he would, things would be a little lighter or more fun or decent or something like that. But now the left has gone absolutely bananas, and the right is largely more Trump's party. Well, Joe, you like all of those policies. You largely like Donald Trump. You like that he shows up to UFC, so you've got to get there. And by the way, what's interesting about all this will get us to the next clip, is that Joe really is, what is he really? He's a liberal, libertarian, pot-smoking, UFC fighting, mushroom doing workout guy. That's basically what he is. And I would say if you're that and you don't want the government in your life, and by the way, Joe, you fled California, right? You lived outside of LA, you fled California because of taxes and went to Texas. That also has a little something to do with Republicans running Texas. Well, you've evolved properly, but now you got to vote the right way. Here's Joe talking about how he was liberal when he was younger.
That's where a person like a Trump character does make a difference, though, because he truly does not give a and especially now, after all they've done to him, just all the things he survived. Yeah, I think this guy was beloved until he's about 70 years old.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts running for president. You need a certain amount of trials and tribulations, character testers, a lot of education, a certain amount of changing your perspective on the world, because we all do that. As a young man, I was very liberal, super, super liberal. Anything the Democrats believed, I believed, never interested in anything the Republicans had to say. All they wanted to do was shove God down your throat and stop abortions.
Totally.
That's what I was.
No, I was 100% with you on that.
Well, that's brainwashing too, right?
Yeah. I was super liberal until I got my first paycheck in the state of California. And then everything started changing.
Yeah. When people get rich, they get Republican real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of you watching this, that works, that resonates with you, right? Like most of us, the factory settings that we come up with in America, in a culture that is owned by the left, you grow up and you are, I hate to say liberal because it's not, because liberals in a sane world, true liberals would be making a lot of sense right now. I still consider myself a classical liberal in a sane world. We don't live in a sane world right now, so I have to defend my classical liberal values, I have to sort of be more of an ally or a co-fighter, let's say, with conservatives. But there's that old phrase, if you're in your 20s and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. And if you're in your 30s and you're not a conservative, you have no brain. And that's basically what he's talking about right there. That as you grow up, you get some world experience, you realize, oh, there were generations before me that fought for things. Maybe they weren't all idiots. Maybe I don't know absolutely everything. Oh, I suddenly got my first paycheck, right? And I look at the paycheck and I go, well, shit, I lost 37% at the end of the year to the Fed. I pay another 13% to the state. There's all these other taxes. I've got sales tax. I got homeowners tax. I got house insurance, all this stuff. And now I got no money. And why is it that now the Democrats are the party of war? So they have money for war, but not for us, and all of those things. The reason I'm showing you that clip is because, again, the people that are in that mode, the mode that Rogan was saying he was 20 years ago, that are now waking up, they've got to get to where it seems Rogan has not gotten yet, which is that, yes, the Republicans are better. And I would say respectfully, Joe, you should say that you are voting for Trump. Like, you do this show, you have an incredible amount of influence. It's admirable, it's honest, it's good, all of that stuff. But at the end of the road, are you going to not tell people what you're going to do, or are you not going to vote? And what would be really the point of that? Like, I can't imagine if I was doing this show every day and you guys didn't know who I was going to vote for, or I was just going to sit out at the end. Like, come on, have some balls here, man. I think you can do it. We're going to get to more people turning towards Trump because the worm is turning here. We'll get to that in a second. Let me talk to you guys about Gravity Defier shoes. Guys, let me share a recent discovery with you. G-Defy shoes. That's G-D-E-F-Y shoes. Let me tell you, they're simply amazing. No, they're beyond amazing. G-Defy is a footwear company on a mission to relieve knee, back, and foot pain. As many of you know, I've struggled with knee pain from balling all these years. But from the moment I slipped on my G-Defy shoes, the pain just vanished. How does G-Defy achieve this ultimate comfort? Firstly, every pair comes with free custom orthotics to align your body perfectly. Then there's their patented VersoShock trampoline technology in the heel, which absorbs harmful shocks and provides positive, renewed energy, empowering you to tackle your day. Additionally, G-Defy has integrated a strong structural system into their shoes that improves your posture and encourages you to walk using your calf and other major muscle groups. Don't take my word for it. Read the countless customer reviews raving about the pain relief and amazing comfort they've experienced for G-Defy shoes. I, for one, can't get enough of them, and I wholeheartedly recommend them to anyone looking for relief. Experience the comfort and pain relief for yourself. Visit gdefy.com today and use code Rubin30 for $30 off, $150 or more. And now back to me. So let's talk about that pendulum swinging, because more and more people seem to, I would say, post October 7th, but then really post the events of the last, say, 10 days, where Donald Trump is now a convicted felon in a court in New York because he paid off a porn star, and somehow the judge and the jury decided that had something to do with campaign regulations. Like, it's just all complete farce. It's a complete farce and totally bananas. And what's happening is more and more people are waking up and being like, Donald Trump is not the evil fascist Hitler that they keep telling us. Here he is over the weekend walking into UFC 302 in New Jersey, which is mostly a blue state. And it's about 10 miles away from where he got convicted just last week. And check out the reaction from the crowd.
Costa also with us tonight. 45. Being ushered in by UFC CEO Dana White. Donald Trump is in the building, and the former president getting a standing ovation from the assembled masses here at UFC 302. Well, you had a sneaking suspicion that former President Trump would be in the building for UFC 302. He is a rabid mixed martial arts fan. I kind of feel like he's betting on these fights when he's not actually here.
Boy, the round of applause he's getting right now is pretty staggering. And you had to imagine that's what was going to happen. Thank you, sir.
All right, so first off, did you catch that last second there? That was him over the weekend shaking hands with Joe Rogan, and big smile from Rogan and everything else. So, like, are you going to tell people, are you just not going to vote for him? Or, look, you could shake hands with somebody and not support them, but, like, what is it that you're not supporting? What is it that you don't think the Republicans are doing better? Again, all the answers really are not purely political. As you guys know, they're spiritual, they're personal, all of that stuff. But there is a political system, and if we're to participate in it, then I think you have to vote for people that are a little more in line with your values. The other reason I'm showing you that is I'm not a huge UFC guy myself, but do you think that the average person in that crowd, as you're watching all those people cheer, do you think they're old school, stodgy Republicans? Do they strike you as whiskey drinking, cigar drinking, thinking about war and money Republicans? Or are they just like people that like to watch people fight, and they're probably a little more libertarian and probably don't even care about politics largely, but they see now something in Trump? That is the point. That is, again, that wide tent thing I'm always looking for. Now, check this out. Here is UFC fighter Kevin Holland, wins his fight, and he jumps out. This is UFC 287. He jumps out of the cage to chat with Trump. It's going to be a little tough to hear, but then we'll throw to some video after. Watch.
Very upset with that stoppage.
I don't love when a guy goes down face first, though. When the guy goes down face first.
Okay, so the guy wins and he immediately jumps out and talks to Trump. As I said, it was a little tough to hear. So here is Kevin Holland afterwards talking to a reporter about what he said to Trump.
What'd you say to Donald Trump, bro?
I just told him, "What's up, Mr. President?" And he was like, "What's up, my d-?" So it was good.
Trump did not say that.
Trump, if you ever want to say that, you can say that. I give you the black card right here, right now, my boy. I heard you hire a lot of black people as it is anyway, so shout out to Trump.
Okay. I don't know if Trump said that exactly. But again, the point is there is now a group of people that would not be thought of as Republican that are thinking this guy is cool, that he now represents something else. And we've been talking for months now about how largely the black community, and you know I hate those phrases, community, and everyone should be judged individually, but sometimes you have to just to be able to talk about some of this stuff, you have to use some catch-alls. The black community, which has largely over 90% for many decades now voted for the Democrats, they seem to be breaking, at least younger black men. I want to show you this. This is in DC yesterday. I've got a tweet from XXL magazine. 50 Cent, rapper 50 Cent, met with members of Congress on Capitol Hill to advocate for more black representation in liquor and music industries. Now, again, I don't know exactly what the government has to do with how many black people are selling liquor or what they're doing with music or anything else. But here is a guy, a rapper, who you would not think maybe would be in DC advocating for black-owned businesses or whatever it might be. And then he was asked, check this out, this is 50 Cent on Capitol Hill, being asked about where he's at politically and what he thinks is happening with the black community.
Have you made a decision?
I haven't.
What do you think is the significance?
Thank you.
Just the last question. What do you see as the significance of African American men in this election? For both of you.
I see them identifying with Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because they got RICO charges.
Okay, I don't know that more black people are being taken out on RICO charges than anything else. I would think it would be more Italian people generally. It's usually the way they get the mafia people, if we want to do just kind of broad stereotypes there. But it's very much actually the same thing that Rogan said up top, where the system is going after Trump. What 50 Cent is saying there is, the system, you can agree or not agree. I'm just telling you what he's saying. The system is going after black people, or has been going after black people in a bit of an odd way over the years. And now we see them doing that to Trump. So Trump is our guy. So again, guys, it gets to the widening of this thing. These are groups of people. These are individuals first, and then groups of people who you would not think are all on the same side of things. I have no idea if 50 Cent and Joe Rogan agree on anything. I have no idea if 50 Cent and Donald Trump really agree on much of anything. But they are largely coming around to be like, Biden and the Democrats are lunatics, so let's see if we can build something. And now, this is an interesting one, even the people who at the end of the day get it, but will still vote the other way, they're starting to freak out too. So on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast, in the last couple of days, here he is predicting what will happen at the election, and hint, hint, spoiler alert, he's not happy about it.
I can't say it enough. I said it many times, I would vote for his head in a jar of blue liquid over Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean that I'm not, first of all, I think it's a moot point at this point.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna lose.
Who, Biden?
Yes.
No, you're wrong.
No.
All right, so there's Bill Maher. He's gonna effing lose, and I think that there's a lot of evidence of that. Look, maybe he won't. Maybe it will be the day after. I mean, I keep telling you, my big fear is that it's gonna be the day before the election. Trump's gonna have all of the momentum, all of the polls, all of the rallies. Nobody's gonna know anybody that's voting for Biden except the MSNBC and pundit class. And then suddenly they're going to be like, and Joe Biden got 84 million votes and Donald Trump got 72. All right, go home, everybody. So I am concerned about that. But Bill Maher even, here he is, Bill Maher, who gets all of the important stuff right, just not the voting part. Here he is now admitting, and maybe he's making a calculation there. He wants to scare people enough to get out there and vote for Democrats, perhaps. But saying that Biden is going to lose. And I just don't know. I am completely, really, guys, I'm completely open to having a Biden supporter who will get on this show. But there would have to be a couple qualifications. You have to be willing, if you're going to support Biden, you're going to have to be willing to defend his cognitive state. You're going to have to be willing to defend his policies. And then you can come on the show, right? I'm not just looking for some troll to come on, or I'm not looking just for somebody's uncle who's begrudgingly doing it. Like, they're just not out there outside of the pundit class. And you can see actually now that even mainstream is getting ready to show Biden the door because A, he could break down at any moment, right? The brain could just explode. The first debate's in about, what, two and a half weeks right now, June 27th, I believe. He could just completely fry up there, even though Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will run cover for him. He could fall down the stairs, whatever, but they're looking and the base doesn't like him. Everybody realizes that cognitively he's not there, the border's not right, et cetera, et cetera. And now the mainstream is starting to turn. Check out this headline from the Wall Street Journal. Behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping. Participants in meetings said the 81-year-old president performed poorly at times. The White House said Biden is sharp and his critics are playing partisan politics. Oh, is that what the White House said? The White House is still saying he's sharp? Well, okay, you can either believe your eyes or you can believe the White House. He obviously is not sharp anymore, right? Like, we all know this. The cold open that we played for you today, like, that was over the weekend. And it's like, was the guy literally pooping in his pants or was he sitting in an imaginary chair? Who the hell knows? Depends. You guys get it, right? But you know, it's funny because about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even longer than that, it's almost 4 years ago now because it was right around when Biden was getting elected. I kept saying he wasn't going to finish this thing like this. There's no way this man will be a 2-term president. Now the system can push him really far. They can run cover for him. They can edit interviews that he's in. They can make sure that nobody can ask a proper follow-up question. They can usher him away. There's a certain amount they can do to hide what we all can see. But then what I always felt was going to happen was eventually it would leak to the mainstream. So I was kind of predicting that Obama in an interview would be like, maybe Joe's lost a step or two. And that would be the signal to the system that now we're allowed to talk about it. But I think actually that Wall Street Journal headline right there is the beginning of the crack. Now, Wall Street Journal has said it, and you're going to see some other things saying it. As a matter of fact, here is a CNN interview with the Time magazine reporter who interviewed Biden recently, and listen to how he runs cover for Biden's mental state.
President Biden brushing off any concerns about his age. How did he seem to you?
I mean, he appears very much as he appears on TV. He is older than when he started in office. It's visible if you just look side by side on the tape. The transcript is a good place for people to go to assess that. You know, he was. We describe it in the piece as well. Yep. There's some sort of color description of how he appeared in there.
All right, so that guy interviewed Biden. Does that sound like a glowing review of Biden's mental condition, right? Like, and read the transcript. There's a lot of reason to believe that the transcript was cleaned up either by the White House or by somebody. Yes, Biden is older. He was older then. But again, this is not an age thing. A couple months ago, I saw 89, now 90-year-old Frankie Valli at the Hard Rock Hotel, no intermission, 3 hours up there on stage. There's no way in high hell that Joe Biden could do that, right? We all know it. And this is going to become part of the narrative more and more because it's starting to leak into the mainstream finally. You guys that watch shows like this or other online shows, we've been talking about this forever, sort of like we were talking about the border forever, right? And then it leaked into the mainstream and we're all going, guys, we've been talking about this for a year, where you been? That's what's going to happen now with Biden's cognitive state because they just have to have plan B, plan C, and everything else. And you know they can't hand this freaking thing to Kamala, who has no support by anybody. Anyway, Trump is clearly looking to take advantage of this situation, and check out this ad that they just put out.
Look, I'm not a young guy. That's no secret. Anyway.
All right, you guys get it. I don't think I have to belabor the point. It is what it is at this point. And with all of the problems that we have, again, I may not like Biden. I don't like what the Democrats have done to this country and everything else, but he is the pilot of the plane. And when you are in a plane and you are in a storm, which is what we're in metaphorically right now, you want the best pilot possible. You don't want a pilot who gets on the loudspeaker and it's like, and then you hear someone in the back like, get off that thing. Like, that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, the issue that we're really having is that within the construct of the system that we have, where there is Trump and there is Biden, you may not like it, that's what we got. There's also JFK, who's still there's also, not JFK. And by the way, they brought back JFK a couple days ago. No, there's also RFK Jr., obviously, who's still polling somewhere between 10 and 20%. So he is a threat one way or another, right? Like, his candidacy could still decide the election. But putting that aside for the moment, since they know that Biden mentally is breaking down, they know that everyone is waking up and seeing that the policies are bad, they don't know what to do right now. So all they can do is run on fear about Orange Hitler, that this guy's going to be a dictator, that he's a convicted felon, that he's awful and horrible and white supremacy and the rest of it. We will get to that in just a moment, but let me talk to you guys about 8 Sleep. Guys, at this point, I'm sure you've heard of 8 Sleep. Their buzzworthy sleep technology called the Pod can be added to your existing mattress like a fitted sheet to automatically cool down or warm up each side of your bed and in turn improve your quality of sleep dramatically. Today, I want to share some exciting news because the Pod just got an upgrade. 8 Sleep has launched their newest generation of the Pod 4 Ultra. It cools, it heats, and now it elevates automatically. It's also clinically proven to give you up to 1 hour more of quality sleep every night. Pod 4 Ultra can cool down each side of the bed 20 degrees below room temperature, keeping you and your partner cool even in a heat wave. There's just nothing else like it on the market. Pod 4 Ultra also introduces an adjustable base that fits between your mattress and your bed frame, adding to add reading and sleeping positions for the best unwinding experience. And for those snore-heavy nights, the Pod can detect your snoring and automatically lift your head by a couple degrees to improve airflow and stop you or your partner snoring. Plus, with Pod 4 Ultra, you can leave your wearables on the nightstand. Its integrated and imperceptible sensors track your sleep time, sleep phases, heart rate, and HRV with up to 99% tracking accuracy. Just add it easily onto any bed. Head over to 8sleep.com/Rubin and use code Rubin to get $350 off Pod 4 Ultra, currently shipped to the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, and Australia. And I'm telling you guys, I freaking love this thing. I am sleeping better than I have probably 20, 25 years. Like, it's really, really just wonderful. Okay, so what can the system do? What can the system do when you are seeing what is obviously right in front of you, right? You're seeing the border stuff, you're seeing the drug stuff, you're seeing the crime stuff, you're seeing a bumbling buffoon who doesn't know where he is, you're seeing a radical base of woke people who are now aligning with jihadists. Like, we're all seeing that, right? So that's a tough thing to sell if you're a Democrat. Well, vote for us. We're doing all that. Well, that doesn't really work. So what works? You've got to convince everyone that Donald Trump is the most evil character in the history of the world. And how are they doing it over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC? Well, they're bringing back Chris Matthews. I can't believe he's back. Does anyone even remember why this guy fired? Was it a sex thing? Was it a fart thing? It was a sex thing. All right, well, he got fired a couple of years ago, but he's back, baby. And here he is. And don't worry, he still has TDS.
And I'm telling you, Trump could end up rolling the score. I've got the Congress. I've got the Supreme Court. I own it all. I am a dictator. It's very reasonable to assume that's where he's headed.
Oh, you old douchebag. That's not how it works. Let's just try the flip version of that for just a second, because these are all Democrats. They're Democrat activists pretending to be journalists. If it was a Democrat, so let's say this was Barack Obama running, 10 years ago, and Barack Obama got the Senate, and Barack Obama got the Congress. Do you think they would be referring to him as a dictator or a fascist? No, they'd be saying what? He has a mandate. This is the direction of the country. Now he can do all of the things that we all want him to do. This is so wonderful. We finally got those racist, warmongering Republicans out of the way. But now, with the fear that perhaps Trump could be president, and Congress is pretty close, and the Senate is extremely close, like, Trump might get a true mandate and they won't like the things, but that doesn't make you a dictator. That means you are the president, you are the head of the executive branch, and in the scenario that Matthews just laid out, that yes, he would be able to do more of the things he wanted to do, but that doesn't make you a dictator. Then it would mean that the Congress was passing bills that the president was signing and they were kind of in line with each other. That's actually democracy. Why did they bring this freaking guy back? I do not know. Anyway, if you want to see something that's closer to dictator and closer to fascism and everything else, so obviously the Trump indictment happened, and we'll find out if they're throwing him into jail or what they're going to do with him. We will find out on July 11th. But this was the Joe Biden press conference that he gave the day that Biden, this is Friday, when Joe Biden he was really doing a press conference about what's going on in Israel and Gaza. But then he was asked a question as he was walking off about Donald Trump's conviction, and just watch I mean, this is evil. This is actually evil.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
That turn, that smile, Donald Trump thinks he's a political prisoner. And there's awful lot of evidence to think that the Biden administration, through Merrick Garland, was pushing Alvin Bragg to do this, right? To make this conviction happen, make this ridiculous case go through in New York. That smile. And then that he can't say anything also. Like, you know, he turns, he wants to say something, but he also has it going through his muddled brain that if he says something, he's going to get in trouble, right? Because we know when he goes off script, he always says he's going to get in trouble. Like, that's evil. He has become like a combination of Mr. Burns, Mr. Magoo, and Dracula. That's what he is at this point. And it is very dangerous because all they are going to do is continue their bad policies and tell you that Donald Trump is the evil one. Check this out. This is a tweet and image from the Biden-Harris official campaign headquarters. They wrote, Donald Trump confirms plans to jail opponents. Reeling and increasingly unhinged from his own felony convictions, Trump raising plans to jail his political opponents is just the latest proof that he will do anything to regain power, preserve his own freedom, and seek revenge on anyone who opposes him. Trump is pledging to rule as a dictator on day one, punish his enemies, embrace violence done on his behalf, and warns of a bloodbath if he loses. The warning signs are clear for all to see. Trump is a danger to our Constitution, a threat to our democracy, and so consumed by his own failed, diminished state, he has gone off the deep end. So consumed by his failed, diminished state. Do you see how they need a mirror? They're trying to make it seem like he is the one with a failed, diminished state. This is exactly what Jill Biden did with Joy Behar last week on The View, where they claim that Donald Trump is the one who can't complete a sentence. It's Joe Biden. Also, who is trying to jail their political opponents right now? Is it Donald Trump or is it Joe Biden? It's Joe Biden. Joe Biden used the Department, and I don't even know that he knows this, right? That's the X factor in all of this. The Department of Justice was deeply connected with Alvin Bragg, who is a Soros-backed DA in New York, to make it so that Donald Trump, who paid $130,000 to a porn star, and then his lawyer just miswrote, he wrote it was for legal expenses on the ledger, they are claiming that that is a felony related to campaign finance laws. And that is why Donald Trump could potentially spend a year in Rikers Island. Like, that is the lunacy of where we are at right now. And they're telling you the complete reverse is what you should be thinking about. Benjamin Shapiro over at the Daily Wire had a good tweet on this. He wrote, man, it certainly would be terrible if a president unleashed his Department of Justice to prosecute his chief opponent in two separate jurisdictions while party hacks convicted that opponent of non-crimes in, say, New York. Yes, that's a little sarcasm from Shapiro. Shapiro also went on Piers Morgan to talk about how nobody is really taking this seriously, meaning the actual conviction, and that this is probably going to wake more people up to Trump.
The bottom line here is that going to impact the presidential race in any serious way? Not particularly. The only thing it might do, actually, is have a rally around the flag effect for Donald Trump on the right side of the aisle, and it might actually impact independents such that they look at what happened here and they say to themselves, you know, the guy who keeps preaching about democracy being under threat from Donald Trump, that guy's party seems very focused on putting his chief political opponent, who right now is winning the swing states, in jail.
Right. I mean, it stinks of being a banana republic. It's the kind of thing you would expect Americans to look at from afar and mock this kind of political abuse, really, of the judicial system. I don't care what side people are on. This seems to me like an absolute clear case of an overreach purely for political purposes. And at that point, America becomes a very different country.
On this one, it is so eminently clear that there is no charge that should have been leveled here against Donald Trump that it's hard for me to see how people in the middle of the spectrum look at this and take it seriously.
Yeah, Ben is absolutely right. And by the way, it gets to the point that we started the show with when Joe Rogan's talking about the system going after Trump. So the average person who is apolitical, the UFC guy who's at a fight, who's not particularly political, the pot-smoking, mushroom-doing video game player, they're all kind of looking at this like, wait a minute, Biden's trying to jail Trump. Biden's also telling us that Trump is the one trying to jail his opponents. The country was kind of better under Trump in the first place. Look what's happening to our border now and everything else. And on top of the fact that the case itself is patently absurd, absolutely absurd. As you guys know, when I was in New York a couple days ago on Monday, no, what day was it? Today is Thursday. I was on Megyn on Tuesday, Megyn Kelly's show. She asked me what I thought about what was going on with the trial. And dare I quote myself on my show? I guess. As a republic, we cannot survive if you are going to jail political candidates. Even if you think that this is the most horrific thing that Donald Trump did by paying off the porn star and somehow it had something to do with campaign finance, even if you believe that, it is still not good. To me, you'd have to let him out either way, because if you think that at the end, if Donald Trump is either taken off the ticket or jailed or whatever they could do to him, if you think that that will make America better at the end of this, that somehow things that the average person will be like, oh, that did really work, and now we've got dementia guy again and everything's fine. No, it will make it all so much worse.
It better. I mean, that's what I've been saying for a couple of days now, is that we must make it worse. Now we're on this train. There's no getting off of it until the train goes, smash into the side of the mountain.
That's why I'm saying.
And then we can restart.
Okay, so I obviously agree with myself. I want to just talk about what Megyn said there at the end. Megyn's position at this point is, let's keep going with this. Let these idiots try to jail him. Let's appeal it every which way. She thinks, from what I could basically tell, her feeling is that somehow this will get reversed on appeal. But even if not, that the further this goes, the further they try to suck Trump into the abyss of hell, the more it will expose. And that really is right. But to my point on that, it's like, again, if you think, let's say you really do believe this was a horrific felony that Donald Trump did by paying off the porn star, having the lawyer just write legal expenses for that $130,000 payment, and you actually genuinely believe that had something to do with illegal campaign contributions. Let's say you really, really believe that. It's hard to believe, but let's say there is someone out there who genuinely believes that. The real question is, do you okay, so fine, they put Donald Trump in jail. Donald Trump can't run for president. Imagine what America will be like the day after that, when half the country thinks that they just jailed the number one political opposition to the president of the United States. Like, where does that put us? We may be there already, which is why I actually, unfortunately, do think that they are going to try to jail Donald Trump. I pray I am wrong. In the prediction game in politics, you are often wrong. And I pray I am wrong. But to me, to Megyn's point, the train is rolling right now. They got 34 out of 34 hits on Trump. And why wouldn't they on July 11th? Why wouldn't the judge just be like, you know what? We're throwing him for 1 year and just all hell will break loose. And if you think we will be better as a country because of that, you're just wrong. All right, we're going to talk about jailing political opponents and the double standard as it relates to that, because there is a lot of stink, let's say, around Merrick Garland, around Joe Biden, around Hunter Biden, who's in trial right now, and a couple other things. We'll get to that in a moment. Let me talk to you guys about fume. Guys, we all have bad habits. My friend's bad habit was the kind of thing where you think you're doing so well, and then you realize you can't go without it. And then you're out with friends, and they're all reaching for their bad habits. And then you feel the urge not to be left out and ask to borrow one of theirs. Well, what if there was a better way? There actually is a better way. Fume. Fume draws flavor to your mouth and fills the void ditching a bad habit can leave. It's not a vape. It has no vapor. It's non-toxic and it's non-addictive. You also won't ever have to charge it. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code Rubin to get a free gift with your Journey Pack. Head over to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com, and use code Rubin to get a free gift with your order today. And now back to me. Okay, so the other thing that's happening right now when we talk about a double standard as it pertains to the justice system, and remember, Lady Justice outside the court, she was blindfolded. She was supposed to be blind, but apparently she's peeking under the blindfold. The other thing is that Hunter Biden is on trial right now as it pertains to having this gun. There was the crack. There's a whole bunch of stuff around Hunter Biden, let's put it that way. Here, and now it has turned out that Hunter Biden laptop, that laptop from hell that we were not allowed to tweet about, that the New York Post, when they released the information of it right before the election, the New York Post's Twitter account was banned, and you could not even privately send the link to the article within Twitter, because do you think there's a little collusion between the Department of Justice and the Biden administration and big tech? Well, it turns out, remember what was it, 51? I think it was 51 former intelligence officials all saying it was Russian disinformation. Well, now everybody's admitting it was real. Here is the prosecutor in the case going after Hunter Biden. And the FBI has verified that the Hunter Biden laptop is absolutely real.
There was a really important scene that played out. It was the moment a MacBook 13 was walked across the courtroom wrapped in plastic. The prosecutor showed it to a federal agent. The federal agent looked at the serial numbers and said, "This is Hunter Biden's laptop." Here's what we were told about Hunter Biden's laptop.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is
told.
where he's.
Was that your laptop?
For real, I don't know.
I know, but you
my
know
point
that's
is,
this.
I really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is
You don't know
truthful
yes
answer.
or no if the laptop.
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So could have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
Did you leave a laptop with a repairman in Wilmington?
Not
that you remember.
No. But whether or not somebody has my laptop, whether or not I was hacked, whether or not there exists a laptop at all, I truly don't know.
Are you missing a laptop?
Not that I know of.
Verified yesterday, 51 intel officers told us it was the hallmark of disinformation. The New York Post, one of the most widely circulated newspapers in the country, was banned. The future president of the United States told us it was all a lie. And I just want to point out quickly the irony of election interference. President Trump, election interference. That's what we were told last Thursday with the guilty verdict. Who brought forward the laptop and said it was disinformation? The left. Who brought forward the Steele dossier and said Trump is a Russian colluder? The left. Who told us all of these lies? The left. Who carried the water? The press. And yesterday, the MacBook 13 was verified by a federal agent. Don't believe what you're told. Investigate for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great job by Kaylee right there. Look, guys, first off, he can't remember if the laptop was stolen or if he ever had a laptop. He doesn't remember if he dropped it off at a repair shop. The guy who he dropped it off with says that it was him. He then gave it to Rudy Giuliani. Then these 51 intelligence officials said it was Russian misinformation. And now in his trial, when they can no longer deny it, they are admitting it was his. On that laptop were videos of him smoking crack with prostitutes. There's a video, I've seen it, of him arguing with the prostitute as they're weighing crack, because I don't know if they were selling crack or whatever they were doing with the crack, but they were weighing the crack and they were arguing about the actual weight of the crack. This is also related to him having a gun and whether the gun was legal and everything else. That's really what the trial is about. But the point here is that if you think that what Donald Trump did, again, by paying off a prostitute and calling it a legal expense, has something to do with election interference, then certainly the Biden administration and the Department of Justice that not only framed Trump for being a Russian asset, but then also ran around telling us that this wasn't Hunter's laptop, where also then Hunter's emails about business deals got leaked, which could have all affected the election. That's far bigger evidence of election interference than anything Donald Trump has done. I went on Jesse Kelly's show and I talked a bit about that. Jesse Waters. The entire farce that we just witnessed for a few hours today was almost exactly like what we saw with Anthony Fauci testifying yesterday at Congress. These people never take responsibility for anything. The clip that really I thought was the most interesting there was the Matt Gaetz one. Because all he's saying is, if you guys have emailed, if the Department of Justice has perhaps emailed Bragg's office, can we just see that? And even that, we can't even get an answer as it relates to that. You know, Jesse, I was watching the show in the green room, and I'm starting to see a theme here.
What's that?
That if you're a Democrat, you can basically get away with everything, and if you're a Republican, you can't get away with anything.
I know. I was a Democrat when I was a teenager, and look where that got me.
So the point of showing you that clip there, it was a bit of a jump, but the point of that is that Merrick Garland is testifying and nothing they asked him he could give a straight answer on. And it's the exact same thing as Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, did you drive the laptop? Well, the laptop may have been stolen. I don't remember losing a laptop. Maybe I lost a laptop. Merrick Garland, are you in collusion with Alvin Bragg's office over in New York, the Department of Justice and the prosecutor in New York? Well, we don't know. Maybe we could send you some emails. We can't really send you some emails. Who knows? They kick the can down endlessly, and that's why nothing gets fixed. Now, of course, I also related that Merrick Garland hearing to the Anthony Fauci hearing, and it's the same thing there. Fauci, did you do this? Did social justice mean anything? Did social distancing mean anything? Did vaccines work? Did masks work? Nothing he says is related to anything he used to say, but he seemingly will keep his $400,000 government check coming in for the rest of his life and have all the security and everything else. So let's just go into a little bit of Fauci's inconsistencies, because again, if this doesn't get to its volition, if no one ever pays the price, fired or jailed or something for what they did to us for 3 years under COVID, then it will happen again and again. And I suspect that it probably will. Here's Fauci then versus now on 6 foot social distancing.
I mean, anybody who's looking at this carefully realizes that there's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, so it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
Dr. Anthony Fauci now admitting social distancing wasn't based on science. Fauci telling a House committee this week the idea, standing 6 feet apart, quote, just sort of appeared. The shocking admission comes nearly 4 years after statements like this.
Every aspect of that ending the COVID outbreak in 30 days has some aspect of it of physical separation, whether that's avoiding crowds, whether that's staying 6 feet away from people, whether that's doing teleworking. All of it does that. That's our most important tool.
Look, I'm sorry, guys. He is evil. I know an awful lot of people think, oh, he just did the best he could with the information he had. But for him to say, if you criticize me, you're criticizing science. And then now he's fully admitting 6 foot social distancing was nonsense. Why did I always think it was nonsense? Am I a wizard? Am I a genius? Many of you watching this, are you wizards? Do we have a lot of wizards? Can we check the analytics? Maybe we have a lot of wizards and geniuses watching the show that you didn't think 6 foot social distancing made sense, or that masks, because they're not fully attached to your face and you're breathing outside, or that you go to a restaurant and somehow when you're sitting, you can take the mask off, but the waiter, he's up here because you're down here because you're sitting. And why is it that many of us saw through this? And now if you criticize him, you are criticizing science. Absolute nonsense. Of course, he also lied about the efficacy of the vaccine itself.
Was the COVID vaccine 100% effective? I don't believe any vaccine is 100% effective. So although you don't like to see breakthroughs, the fact is this is one of the encouraging aspects about the efficacy of the vaccine. It'll either protect you completely against infection. If you do get infected, the chances are that you're going to be without symptoms, and the chances are very likely that you'll not be able to transmit it to other people.
Yeah, that all just turned out not to be true. As you know, you could still get the vaccine and you could still get COVID and transmit COVID and everything else. You might remember Joe Biden in June of 21.
The various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah. Lies, 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 and more lies. Ed Krasenstein, who's one of these Twitter guys who kind of runs cover for the Democrats often, he wrote this and got owned on Twitter. I think it's worth noting. The U.S. government nor the manufacturers of COVID vaccines ever said their vaccines were 100% safe and effective in preventing COVID. Never. Stop saying they did, otherwise prove me wrong. I dare you. No drug, treatment, or herbal supplement is 100% safe and effective. And thank God for community notes over on Twitter, because they quoted Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, and he wrote this on Twitter where Krasenstein was writing that. Excited to share that updated analysis from our phase 3 study of BioNTech also showed that our COVID vaccine was 100% effective in preventing COVID-19 cases in South Africa, 100%. Just abject. These people lie about everything and they don't want you to see what you can see right in front of your face. Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio, during the congressional hearing with Fauci, just went off on him as it pertained to censorship, big tech, and everything else.
Let me read something here to you.
They're not incompatible.
In our study on the censorship of the Biden administration working with big tech, I want to read you a WhatsApp message from Mark Zuckerberg. Can we include that the White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory? So this is a communication on July 16th, 2021. Nick Clegg, Joel Kaplan, Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg. They're certainly feeling the pressure to downplay any lab leak theory and go with the natural origin theory.
Is there a question there?
There's coming. One's coming. Here's another email to Mark Zuckerberg. It says, subject line, COVID misinformation, Wuhan lab leak theory. In response to continued public pressure and tense conversations with the new administration, we started removing 5 COVID claims, including the lab leak theory. Mr. Zuckerberg responds, this seems like a good reminder that when we compromise our standards due to pressure from an administration in either direction, we often later regret it. Why was it so important the virus not have started in a lab?
Wasn't so important that the virus not. We don't know. We know
it was important to someone in the Biden administration, so much so that the top people at Meta, the top people at Facebook are asking, why are we getting all this pressure to downplay the lab leak theory? And we have an email from June of the same year, June 4th, 2021, saying the same thing. It was certainly important to somebody.
Well, what does that got to do with me?
I'm asking you because you're the expert on the coronavirus. I'm saying, why was the administration so pushing not to have the lab leak theory as something that was viable?
I can answer that. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
You kept an open mind. Dr. Fauci, open mind.
They just endlessly kick the can down the road. You get it. So now 6-foot social distancing, masks, the vaccine, lab leak, who knows? I'd like to think that in a very succinct way, I told Anthony Fauci what he could go do to himself on the Greg Gutfeld exclamation point program on Monday night.
She grilled over COVID lies.
I'm going to go through a list of COVID mitigation measures that you supported over the course of the pandemic and ask you to give me a yes or no as to whether you believe these measures were justified. Business closures.
Early on, when 5,000 people were dying a day, yes.
Church closures.
Same thing.
School closures.
Again.
American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci, because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. In my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
An ouchie for Fauci. All right, Rubin. I'm not crazy about that kind of theatric stuff because I think he should go to jail. Right?
Yeah,
what did you make about him basically saying he had an open mind? He did not have an open mind about the lab leak.
No, Fauci has lied about everything from the beginning. He admitted that 6 feet social distancing was just kind of made up. He told friends 2 months into COVID that masks don't work. He claims he had nothing to do with school closures. We could go on and on. There's another part of that testimony where he says that he blames 200,000 to 300,000 COVID deaths on podcasters for spreading misinformation about vaccines. I would like to say, as an unvaccinated podcaster, I want to use my words carefully here, Anthony Fauci can go himself. Nailed it. All right. So what's really happening here, guys? Okay, the bullshit's being exposed, whether it's Fauci, whether it's Merrick Garland, whether it's everything around Joe Biden at this point, it's all being exposed. And as it gets exposed, they're not going to stop, right? They never stop. They just keep going like an unstoppable rebel force or like the alien going through the ship. But the alien didn't win in the end, right? So we've all got to get a little Sigourney Weaver-ish right now. The other thing that's, of course, going on in the country right now that more and more people are waking up to is this horrific situation at the border that roughly 7 to 10 million people, if we're to believe any of these numbers that have come into this country, as I said, in New York City right now, although there were moments where I thought it was a little bit better than it has been over the last couple times I visited, there are just people all over the place that you can tell are not American citizens, not speaking English. Like, it's just something ain't right. I went on Fox News with Sandra Smith to talk about that in light of 2 police officers that were shot by an illegal immigrant. They both are alive, fortunately, but we talked a bit about the migration situation.
That's the emotional scene as those officers left the hospital, one of them in a wheelchair, his partner pushing him. Thank God they're going to be okay. The suspect in that shooting is a migrant living in a public shelter, but injured in the line of duty by someone who was not here legally in the first place and had a track record.
You know, Sandra, I spent most of my formative years, 20 years, in this city. I don't live here anymore, but when I come back, I can see how the city has changed. I just drove by Roosevelt Hotel as we were coming here from the airport, which is now a migrant shelter. We know about the crime. We know that the police are not backed by the mayor or even the governor. So God bless these guys, and I know that the city stands with them. The people of the city stand with them. It's the administration, I would say it's the local administration, the mayor here, and the governor here, and then of course it's the federal administration that is allowing these migrants to come in. You know, Andrew Breitbart was famous for saying that politics is downstream from culture. What I've been saying lately is that everything is downstream from immigration, because if you don't fix this problem, then whether you care about the economy or whether you care about crime or drugs or the litany of things that people care about, none of that will be fixed if we don't know about the, say, 10 million people that have come into this country.
It's interesting you say that.
So I mentioned Roosevelt Hotel there. This was once iconic, Midtown Roosevelt Hotel. We walked by it. We actually drove by it. We didn't even know we were driving by it at first when we were coming from JFK Airport. And we saw it and I said, okay, I've got to walk back there so I can take a picture and see what's going on. I took this picture. There are dozens and dozens of people out there. This is just a small portion, but there's children out there. There's people that look kind of shady. Who are these people? What are they doing there? There's security outside. They are given room service, we are told, in that hotel right now. So you have likely legal immigrants providing room service for illegal immigrants. Does that seem tenable? But the line there that Andrew Breitbart said that politics is downstream from culture, right? So the left got that right. Win the culture, you'll win the politics. I like this line I've come up with. I hope you'll repeat it. Everything is downstream from immigration. It doesn't matter what you think about anything. If we just let everybody into the country, then whatever the issue you care most about, whether it's abortion or taxes or blah, 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 it will not matter if we do not know who is in the country. We've got some info here. Check this out. This is from Breaking. Large numbers of African migrants swarming New York City's City Hall. Check this out. Oh, we don't have that? Nope. Nope. Okay, sorry, we lost that video. I'm not sure what happened there. But what happens? You let all these people in. You have this intersectional. Wait, we do have it? Okay, sorry, we do have it. We didn't have it. We do have it. Go.
What is really going on here? What's going on here? What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing over here? Why are you guys in line here? What the fuck is going on?
Guys, does that not concern you? What are they doing here? What do those people believe? Why are they all men between 25 and 40? A couple kids here and there, a couple women here and there. Like, you better wake up to this. And what is it that the people of America owe them? Or what is it that the people of New York City owe them? The answer actually is absolutely nothing. This is what the Democrats have brought. So do not tell me that the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. The Republicans largely suck. Again, yes, true. But they are not the ones doing this. That is a Democrat-run city. Portland is a Democrat-run city. Seattle, Chicago, we can do the laundry list. Boston, Democrat-run cities, and that's where this is happening more and more. And you know what will happen at the end? You will have this intersectional matrix of lunacy where you will have the Marxist, leftist, genderqueer furries of the left aligning with the jihadists until finally they realize they actually have nothing in common other than trying to destroy the United States. And that's not a great unifying principle. So at the this is great. This is just great. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride, everybody. Here are a bunch of jihadists getting in it with the furries and the leather people at Philly Pride. mean, it's absolutely hilarious. You have they're not even, I can't even say regular. I have nothing to do with any of these people, and most gay people have nothing to do with any of these people. But you have the regular gays over there like, we just wanted to get outside and it's a nice day and we'll wear something weird and okay. And then you have the jihadists who are teaming up with the people who will kill them. And now they have hit each other in the head. It's just great. I went on Guy Benson's radio show and he asked me about that.
Who are you rooting for here, Dave? And where do the Queers for Palestine come down on this?
Well, first off, Palestine for Queers is very different than Queers for Palestine, but it's ironic that intersectionality basically got stopped at an intersection.
Yes.
That's pretty much what happened here. Who am I rooting for? Well, you know, in every big monster movie, Godzilla, usually there's always a scene towards the end where there's an Asian man and he's standing amongst chaos, a Japanese man, and he's got one tear in his eye, and everyone he knows is dead. The future and the past have all been destroyed, and Godzilla's there with Mecha Godzilla or whatever the monster
Mothra
is. Or Mothra, doesn't matter. And he says, let them fight. And that's basically how I feel about this. If the Islamists want to fight the furries, like, let them fight, and it'll start sorting itself out. That's kind of where we're at.
If the woke...
Islamists versus furries, 2025. Yeah, it's pay-per-view.
If the woke sort of grievance Olympics were a video game, would this battle be the final boss?
It might be, because it's the most perfect example of the ludicrousness of intersectionality in the first place. The idea that you could take these groups that have absolutely nothing in common. I mean, truly, Islamists who want to throw gays off roofs and gays who would prefer not to be thrown off roofs. The idea that you could combine them into one transformer that was somehow bigger and stronger and more powerful is completely absurd. So it really is the perfect one. I'm going to work a little blue for a Monday, but you will end up on your knees either way.
Uh-oh. I'll let the audience interpret that however they might. I know how I'm interpreting it. And for that
That's AM radio over there with Guy Benson, and I'm pretty sure he got fired after that. Anyway, I have one more clip that'll wrap this show up for you. So Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe, that was the comedian that he was on in the clips we showed you up top, they also commented on this ridiculous event at that intersection between the Islamists, jihadists, and the gay furries.
Look at the Free Palestine and the gay pride. It's a standoff. It's a flat out standoff.
Hijabs versus blowjobs over
here. No pride in genocide. So they're stopping the pride parade. No, you can't have your parade. Our parade's more important. I love the masks. I just love them. Look at all these people with masks on. Yeah. It is the liberals' MAGA hat. It is. Yeah. I've said it a million times, but that's what it is. It's a MAGA hat.
Oh my goodness.
These dorks. How many of them had masks on, man? It's crazy. They don't even work. I mean, they work as well as that lady's visor that's turned backwards.
Yeah. And they definitely don't work against AIDS. So wearing one at a gay pride parade is completely pointless.
Imagine you think the mask, this is going to protect you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're wearing a mask outside, and meanwhile they butt strangers in glory holes.
All right, guys, the point is, Rogan, you get it. You get it. So if we flash that to that second clip we showed you at the top of the show of Rogan saying that Republicans are just as bad, it's just not true. So I think I proved it to you today, Joe. The choice is yours. You don't want to turn Texas, where you moved, into California that you fled. And I agree with that. That's why I live in Florida. But we also don't want to turn America into Africa. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now. I look forward to continuing the conversation. Guys, unfortunately, no post-game show today because I am 3 minutes late for John Bachman on Newsmax, which is live right now, and I'm going to be on for about 15 minutes. I promise I will make it up to you. Cold close Joe Biden, and we'll see you on the other side. Ciao.
Okay, so basically everything's because of you. The border is wide open. Tons of drugs are pouring in so that your up son can get high while he parties with prostitutes. And on behalf of my colleagues, please go yourself.
Could you repeat what he just said?
Sure, sir. What my colleague just said is that we all hate you here and we would all like you to go yourself.